So that's been moved. Nothing else. Motion to approve the agenda as amended. Councillor Surratt, seconder. Councillor Albright, all in favor, signify by raising your hand. Against? Carried. Any conflict of interest declaration from anybody on the with the items on the agenda? Hearing none or seeing none. We have a presentation, and the presentation is the Aquaculture Development area, and we have Charlene LeBlanc and Alix and there's an attachment. So you two are on. Charlene, yeah, okay. Yes. So you're on there with your presentation.
Right, I'm going to go share my screen. Assuming everything is okay.
I can see it, Charlie.
Good, thank you.
I can see it too.
Perfect. Good evening, and thank you everyone for the opportunity to present to Argyle's Business Park on the Sea. I'm Charlene LeBlanc. I'm the Community Development Officer for the Municipality of Argyle. And with me, I have Alix, who is our GIS technician and our mapper. The concept of the Business Park on the Sea originated about 5 years ago. At that time, Nolan Dion, the aquaculture oyster farmer in our region, was expanding his business to Salt Bay. And we had invited BBI, who is Bugtush Bay Industries, from New Brunswick to do a presentation on their growing system, which is called Oyster Grow. This actually is a picture of the suspended oyster growing system in Salt Bay. The folks at BBI were amazed at the geography of our region and at the abundance of sheltered water. They called it a real asset to the region, and it indeed is. With the full support of the municipality, we began exploring the concept and planning a business park on the sea. We were successful in receiving some funding from the province for research and development. And much like a business park on the land, we needed to determine what each body of water could and could not offer. Here's a picture of Alix and I working on the water. At the start, we needed the assistance of with biology and data. Therefore, we engaged Université Saint-Anne. Here's a picture of Valérie Lalonde. She's on the left. Alix is in the center. And some of you might recognize Garrett Newell, which I believe he might be a doctor now. He was working at the lab in Clare. Here we are on the water, collecting water samples. The data was collected and mapped by us, and we were able then to see a true picture of how ideal the area is for growing shellfish. Most of our trips were smooth sailing, pardon the pun. However, this is a picture of us on the shores of Mike's Island repairing a propeller. Using the funding, we were able to purchase our own water testing equipment. Here is a picture of myself calibrating the meter for the first time. Valérie Lalonde was instrumental in teaching me how to calibrate each electrode. And this is the AquaRead 2000. I often joke that's the most important piece of equipment in the municipality's building. And it has GPS capability to map where the meter has been used, and it can perform reports when connected to the computer. It measures temperature, pH, salinity, dissolved oxygen, total dissolved solids, nitrate, and chlorophyll. We used to measure width the University of St. Anne lab, we would measure phytoplankton, but phytoplankton has to be counted by the eye. So the chlorophyll actually has a correlation to phytoplankton. So using the chlorophyll electrode, we can tell actually how much food there is in the body of water. And oysters are filter feeders and they need phytoplankton. So soon things were starting to get pretty serious. So the municipality and the province of Nova Scotia signed a memorandum of understanding, or an MOU. In the memorandum, it states that we would work together to develop an aquaculture development area. It's expected that this work will be submitted to Cabinet in February 2021. If approved, this will be the first of its kind in Canada. So what is an ADA? The Aquaculture Development Area, we call it an ADA. It's an area of water that's been identified following a thorough assessment as an area suitable for aquaculture, and it will be pre-approved for certain types of aquaculture. In our case, it's for shellfish and marine plants only. So you might wonder, why do we need an ADA? It's going to reduce the red tape for investors looking to develop aquaculture. The process currently is very lengthy and it has a great deal of work. So in summary, as you'll soon see, we have done much of the legwork. We have 3 committees. I won't list all the members, but you can read them for yourselves. But we have a steering committee whose purpose is to manage the ADA process. We also have a stakeholder committee, and its purpose is to provide support in the engagement, including First Nations and network partners. And the data committee, whose purpose is to provide support on all things related to and including data collected through the stakeholder engagements. Much of the data we get does come from the public and from fishermen, and there's a lot of people who know a lot about water in our communities. So the project is very complex for what started out with 2 people on the water, and it now involves 12 provincial and federal departments. Nova Scotia Environment, Agriculture, Municipal Affairs and Housing, Office of Aboriginal Affairs, Departments of Lands and Forests, TIR, Energy and Mines, Community Culture and Heritage, Fisheries and Oceans Canada, CFIA, Transport Canada, and Environment and Climate Change Canada. I'm going to be passing it on to Alex, and he's going to talk about the area of analysis and the data sets.
Thank you very much, Charlene. So many steps have been taken to define the extents of the ADA. The green area that you see on this map represents our area of analysis. Through research and stakeholder engagement, we will narrow down on specific spots within this area of analysis that are optimal for an aquaculture operation. So many factors are being considered during this analysis, and here are just a few of them. Navigation routes, fisher people and rock weeders, sheltered waters, proximity to homes, proximity to wharves, Indigenous people, recreational boaters, water quality. So primary productivity has been identified as an extremely important part of the picture that we're trying to paint here. This is a measure of the rate of photosynthesis and provides information on the carrying capacity of a specific body of water. The carrying capacity relates to how many shellfish a specific body of water can host without negatively affecting other organisms living in that water. And we were helped by Professor Ramon Filgueiras for this. So he sent us 2 big crates full of lab equipment, and as you can see, it filled our table in the basement. So the process was quite complex. It requires carbon-13, which is a stable isotope of carbon that was actually quite difficult to find. And here I am collecting a specific amount of carbon-13 from a solution to be placed in bottles containing seawater that we collected from the various sites. So these bottles with seawater and carbon-13 are then placed in the water and retrieved after 24 hours. And our own Councillor D'Entremont even helped out one day when Charlene wasn't able to. Along with the primary productivity bottles, we also deployed light and temperature loggers. So that's the little round devices that are hooked onto the rope with pink zip ties. So the primary productivity testing was done at 4 sites within our area of analysis, just off of Camp Cove Wharf in Lower Argyle, in Indian Sluice, in the Argyle River, and in Pimlico Harbour. So after the fieldwork was complete, we had to filter the seawater from these various bottles that were in the ocean for 24 hours and freeze these filtration discs and then send them off to Dalhousie University for further analysis. Now I'm going to show you a few examples of data sets that are being used for our analysis. So I collected the location of thousands of lobster buoys in several areas from aerial photography. And we would really appreciate comments from fishermen about where they set their traps. But this is a good first step. We were actually fortunate to get a student named James Cunningham, who did a lot of the work collecting and making sure these different data sets were usable for our project. So thanks, James. This is a wind and wave atlas that was created by the Center for Marine Applied Research. So if you look, the green areas up north and in Pimlico Harbour there are the sheltered places. So there's lower wind and lower wave compared to the other areas, especially the areas in red and orange. So the areas that are sheltered in green are the better places for an aquaculture operation. And here we are doing some maintenance to a buoy that actually collects data to be tested against that wave model that I just showed you. This is the ship traffic data from the Automated Identification System, or AIS. So we want to avoid these high traffic areas that you see here. This is the Environment Canada shellfish classification. And at the moment, we're actually just focusing on the approved areas, which are the green areas on this map. The last example data set that we use, that we're using for our analysis is the Nova Scotia Environment Special and Significant Wetlands. And on to Charlene again.
Thanks, Alex. Much like a business park on the land, we need to know what lies underneath. So we use GoPro technology to videotape the ocean floor. We're interested in sediments. We want to know if the ocean floor is either rocky or muddy or sandy. And we're also keep an eye out for any sea life, organic matter, debris, or ghost gear. A ghost gear is a term we use for abandoned fishing gear or lost gear or anything that does not belong in the water. We do investigate areas that are reported to have ghost gear, and we map it, and we try to take a video of it, but it's often difficult. While we do not have a funding program yet to help us remove ghost gear, we are hopeful that someday we will. This is Alex and I. This is Alex and I in Lobster Bay. We had a report of ghost gear. We went out, we did water testing while we were there, and we used our fancy GoPro stabilizing stick to videotape. Actually, in Glenwood Bay, the ocean was very sand-like. The bottom was very sand-like, and there was little turbidity. It was really clear, and home to quite a few hermit crabs. Unfortunately, I don't have the video to share with you. This, however, is a picture off of Roberts Island. To me, it's a beautiful picture. It looks pretty clear compared to some of the pictures we get. eelgrass and the ADA. We have an interest in eelgrass, and we're not the only ones. We recently participated in a national eelgrass task force. Eelgrass is making a comeback. I'm sure most of you recall seeing the mounds of eelgrass rolled up on the shores. We don't see that anymore. But eelgrass is really a nursery habitat for many marine species. It provides food, shelter, protection, and it will anchor a sandier ground. It needs sunlight to grow. Therefore, we do not want to place an aquaculture farm above an eelgrass bed. Now, the lease areas that we are pre-approving will be large enough to allow movement so that you're not on top of any eelgrass beds. Unfortunately, we can't predict where the eelgrass is going to grow or where it's going to shift to, so we have to be flexible. And this beautiful picture was taken by Alix from the drone, and this is a picture taken in Pimlico Harbour. It's at low tide, and you can see just below the surface the eelgrass growth, which is coming back. Capturing eelgrass footage or photography only happens at certain times of the year, which is rather amazing, I found, to learn. The sun has to be at a certain angle, and most of the time it's in the month of September. So our ADA project has received international attention, and this is a horrible windy picture of me. But this is a picture of general media filming a segment for Nova Scotia Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture. They were doing a promotional video showing all the great work they do in our province. So before I open to questions, please take note of our website. And I would like to add that all councillors have a copy of this presentation. If they would like to share it with anybody, they're more than welcome to do it. We welcome feedback and we would love questions. We're always ready to talk about the aquaculture development area. And I would like the public to know that in the winter, maybe January or February, we'll be having public engagement sessions in your communities. And that's it. Questions for anyone?
There you go. Anybody have questions? Councillor Surratt.
I guess it's not really a question, but a comment. I certainly have to say that Charlene and Alix, this is just amazing to me. What you've gone through, what you've done, it's just, it blows my mind. You guys, I don't know how the heck you went and did all you did. It seemed to be quite a project. I guess you must have the instruction somewhere for what to do, but I commend you on what you've done. Very, very interesting. It's just a comment.
Thanks. There's a lot of teamwork for sure. And the project grew, which is a good thing, because if they had thrown me in that, I would have probably ran the other way. But we kind of grew with it. So, and we learned a lot, and we're very proud of our project.
It's a it was very interesting presentation for sure. I'll let Council Deputy Albright go up. You had a question.
Thank you. I just wanted to say too, I think you guys should add scientists to your titles now, because what an incredible amount of learning the two of you have had to do, like, for this project. And I'm sure when you set out to start this, you didn't realize how big it would get. But the impacts on our municipality are going to be huge. Just so that the public knows, I mean, you guys have set the pathway up for people who come apply for leases. You have done so much legwork for them that you're reducing the amount of time it will take for them to get their lease. And that's exactly what we want to see happen. So thank you for the work that you both have done. And I really think you should now sign your name, scientists, Charlene LeBlanc and Alix d'Entremont, because that's really, I think, part of what you are now.
And thanks to the municipality for supporting us, because the water belongs to everybody, and some people might not think that it's actually ours to develop for economic reasons. However, we do have the dark skies, and we're using that for economic reasons. So why not the sea?
Certainly has been a great project, and I think like Deputy Warden Albright said, it's great for the municipality and for the government to allow us to do that as well. I think it's a big plus for us, for sure. Did I see a hand go up? Yes. Okay, I have Richard Donaldson first, and then I'll have Councillor Sonia after. Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with this file. I've been pretty close to it at times. And I understand that one of our big investors, Raymond d'Entremont, that his applications have all been approved. If I remember rightly, 3 large, I don't know what you call them, lots or sites.
3 large sites.
Is that true?
Yes, it is true. Yeah, he received 3 large sites. Yeah, one off Roberts Island, a little further down,
Yeah.
and off of Calf Island.
Yeah. And I see he's done some major landscaping work on Roberts Island. Do you have any idea when we'll start seeing brick and mortar type operation there?
I don't know if you'll say brick and mortar, but he's talking about a small office right now. And he'll be using a trailer, I think, to go into the water. For now. I don't think there's plans for a wharf, but it's pretty exciting. We have a lot of interest
And
as
one
well
more, if
in
I may.
marine plants.
Okay, my next question was like how many or what percentage of adequate oyster lots have been used and what's left? Like are we 50-80% that's used, or do we know that tested the best, I guess?
Oh, that tested the best is probably there's probably a good 5 or 6 that tested the best, and there's probably another room for another dozen. So there's plenty of room.
I think we're still waiting, especially for the primary productivity data.
Yes,
We haven't seen that yet, so that will allow us to decide, I guess, how many oysters can be grown in these specific bodies of water that we're looking at. So we'll know more later.
Yeah, the primary productivity is really important because you don't want to overcrowd a body of water with oysters, because they won't thrive, and neither will the body of water. So we're waiting for that. I believe they're gone to California, those filters.
Thank you, Charlene. Now,
You're welcome.
Sonia. Unmute. You're muted. You're muted, Ted. Ted, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm quite interested in the whole area. I'm an ex-fisherman and I'm an avid hunter. I know the area quite well. Some better than others, but I know the area well, out of Abrams River and Roberts Island, all that area. The eelgrass was always a concern of ours because of hunting. Was that? Do you have any idea why that stopped growing and why it's coming back?
I'll let Alex answer, but I guess they don't really know. Ice may have pulled it away. It might have. It's not the first time that it disappears. Do you have anything to add, Alex?
No, I would agree. What I've read is that the case isn't closed as to what happened where. It could be partially green crabs, or I know there were different diseases that were going on. Even overgrazing by, let's say, Canada geese, and then obviously ice just pulling the root system out, right? So there are multiple reasons. I don't think we've pinpointed exactly why there was a decline here. I've done a bit of droning around this year, and quite happy to see healthy looking eelgrass in a few different areas. And I think this year is the first time that I've seen in quite a while rolls of eelgrass washed up on the shore. So it's good. Good news all around.
Yeah. Okay, sounds like you're doing a great job.
Thanks.
Anybody else? If not, thank you very much to both of you for a great, great presentation. And congratulations on just the excellent work and job that you've done on this project, for sure.
Great. Thanks for your time tonight.
Oh, we have our CAO wants to say something.
Oh,
Just quickly, just to remind everyone that the work that they've done here is the first time this has been done in Canada. So this isn't just the first time in Nova Scotia or the first time a municipality has engaged in this kind of work. It's the first time that a province and the federal group and municipal and all the partners associated have banded together to do this. So when the ADA is completed, now to clarify, the recent announcement of Ramon's leases was before the ADA process. So his process was a lot longer. So I think everybody learned exactly how long that process is. And it's even longer than we feared. Unfortunately I would say, but with this ADA, all of the work is at the front. So what he had to go through, Charlene, Alix, and their team is doing that at the front. So, and again, I love to say this, the first time in Canada. So that is something to be very proud of. And I think that, I think it's kudos to the work of in particular, Charlene and Alix, and all of the resources that they managed to piece together is pretty amazing accomplishment.
Takes a big team.
Thank you for that, Charlene.
You're welcome.
And Alix.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Yes.
Bye.
see ya.
Okay, we'll continue. And the next item is the adoption of minutes. We have the committee of the whole meeting minutes of November the 24th. We need a motion. Moved by Deputy Warden Albright, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Contrary-minded, carried. The next one is the Recreation Commission, Argyle Recreation, minutes September 17. Motion to approve those, moved by Councillor Brook, seconded by Councillor Saulnier. All in favor signify by raising your hand. And contrary-minded, carried. Business arising, the TNR, the trap, neuter, and return. So that was on, we discussed that the last time. We said we would bring it back, but I understood that maybe we were going to have maybe someone, were they looking for somebody? Because the person that was doing this, from what I understand, was looking for someone else to take it over. And I'm not sure where we go with this at this point, because Councillor Donchmo is not with us, and he's the one who had brought this up. So CAO Muse, maybe you know a little more. Yes.
Just a tiny bit, Mr. Warden. We have contacted the SPCA. We have not landed on any sort of communication with them yet around that. So we don't have a lot to report. The only organization that we identified as having an involvement in this would be the SPCA, would be the natural fit, but I can't confirm that at this time. And I don't know what their funding model is or what they're capable of doing yet.
Okay.
I did receive a message from Councillor Donstremo, from the person who takes care of this in the community of Pubnico, just some, expressing concern around feral cats and the status of that in that community. That's
Okay.
all the information I have at this time.
Okay, so it's something I guess that we'll have to look at in a later meeting, and maybe Councillor Donchmo might have more. And before I forget, I guess I did forget, but I should bring that up, that we've had two regrets, and one was Councillor Dotrimo and the other one was Councillor Dickton because of the fishing. Okay. Councillors report. Now I can, if anybody has any reports, what I can do is I can start the way I see them on my screen and just ask if anybody has reports to give. And the first one I see here is Deputy Warden Albright. Do you have any report?
I do. Busy month since the last meeting. A lot of the things I had on my report are similar to yours. So Warden, so I'm not going to go through all of them, the regular meetings, but Remembrance Day was a bit different this year. Typically we have ceremonies that we go to, but there was a quiet, small ceremony in Tusket that I did participate in. We had the orientation, and I just want to mention 2 days of council orientation. And although I'm not a new councillor, I learned a lot during that orientation, and I felt like it was really, really well done and a lot of really good information. And I took a lot of pieces away from that I went, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't realize that. I probably should have known that, but didn't. So I was really happy with the way that was set up. We also did the tour of the ground search and rescue, which we've talked about before, and we're going to talk about again later on. I had an interview with Norbert LeBlanc for the Courrier on the 17th of November. Also, I'm not sure if you remember, but Le Jardin des Petits, the garderie, the daycare, had asked for a member of council if we were interested on going on the board. I did submit my name, and I think they wanted a councillor, not necessarily that it's a committee of council, but they were looking for somebody who's familiar with running meetings and governance and terms of reference. So that's what they've been working on as well. We've met with Eelbrook Fire Department, which we're going to discuss later on the agenda, so I'm not going to go into it, but basically looking for the possibility of a holding tank at their new building so that we can, think about options for droughts again in the future. ARC on November 18th, a few highlights from that. The Athletics Awards banquet was postponed because of COVID. We tried to have something, had to have submissions, but there wasn't a whole lot of interest. So they just decided to postpone it for this year. Jeanette and Natalie have been really creative in the way that they've been delivering programs during COVID. They've come up with some really, really different ideas, and people are very open and receptive. Glenwood Park, we have a lot of ideas on the go there, and we're getting some support from Department of Natural Resources, and Colton LeBlanc, our MLA, has been interested as well in sending off letters of support. And I want to mention that Hubert Pache, we got some money for grants for an extension from École Belleville to the trail, the Rails to Trails that goes just basically across the school so that students can access the trail safely. And we had asked Hubert Pache if he would do a little bit of work to kind of extend that trail. And he went above and beyond. It's amazing what he's done there. He's cleaned it out completely. There's a parking lot. There's a very clear access point to the trail, and students are easily going to be able to access that trail. So that's, we're really appreciative of that. As we mentioned before, we have lost Natalie. She has moved on to bigger and better things, I guess. And although we're sad to see her go, we're very sad to see her go, but it's definitely an excellent opportunity for her. We had a meeting with Municipality of the District of Yarmouth, the warden and I, with the deputy warden and the warden from Modi. And what came of that basically is they wanted to meet to, they mentioned how they've noticed that they have more and more Acadian people moving into their area, and they're looking for ways to celebrate that and to recognize that. So they wanted to bring that to our attention, and they are interested, especially with the Congrès Mondial coming up. They want to highlight the fact that they have people in their area that have Acadian descent as well. And we talked about, we really need to think about what our regional priorities are. So for us, in terms of Municipality of Argyle, what are we thinking about is going to be our regional priority, so that when we get together with the other two units, we're ready and we have an idea of where we want to go. I attended tree lighting in Eelbrook on the 26th. small ceremony, but it was very nice tree. It was raining, but it was very nice. And tree lighting in Quinnen as well. Doctor recruitment meeting today. Work is ongoing. They have set up a toolkit for physicians, and they were just giving out some stats. And one of the stats that stood out to me was, since we kind of got on board with the provincial recruiters, since 2016, from 2016 to 2019, Nova Scotia has hired 470 new physicians in our province. That I was really surprised by that. But since all of this recruiting and working together has happened, that's how many physicians have been hired. So sorry to be so long-winded. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Not thank you because you're done. Thank you for your report. Councillor Surratt, do you have anything to report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I participated in the setup of the Christmas tree down in Threads Island. I'd like to thank the municipality of Argyle for passing on these grants. One on the Murals Hill, one on Threads Island. Anyhow, we lit the tree up on the 26th, and everything went well. It was well attended, and we did the social distancing thing. But anyhow, it went well. I attended the Yarmouth and Area Industrial Commission, and it was our first meeting. It was face-to-face. It was at the Hebron complex, and met the new members, and I guess nothing overly new to report there, but everything's going, I guess, pretty well at the moment. Otherwise than that, just to let the residents of the Tittle Road know that we were supposed to meet Friday, I should say, with Paul LaFlèche, Deputy Minister from TIR, Colton LeBlanc, Chris D'Entremont, to go see the flooding on Tittle Road on the two marshes, but due to COVID-19, they canceled, and we're rescheduling for the new year. And the last item would be, I guess, just to mention that we've had a lot of rain, and it certainly has filled a lot of our wells in my district, and I believe in the municipality. So that's a good thing. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Boudreau, do you have anything that you want to share with us? I know this is new to you guys, so you weren't maybe expecting this, so don't feel bad if you don't, but if you have anything, by all means. You're muted. Good.
Okay. Just to mention the tree lighting ceremony in Westport, it was not for the public, but we had a pretty good celebration there, and I thank the municipality of Argyle for the grants. Thanks.
Okay, good. Thank you. Councillor Donaldson.
Yeah, it may come as a surprise to some of you, but I keep getting a warning. Your internet connection is unstable. It keeps popping up. So I don't know if you can hear me all the time or what's going on. But anyhow, there's not a lot. I attended a couple meetings with the group, the Argyle Buptic Festival group that went ahead with doing a community tree. I met a couple times with them. Guy mentioned the Yarmouth Area Industrial Commission. I attended that meeting. I've talked to a few residents that have brought up concerns during the campaign, but I don't believe this is the time to talk about that. But there's a couple small things that we got to look into, and we've probably looked at them before, but they've been brought up again. So we'll, in due time, we'll discuss those. And that's about it. It's been pretty slow with this COVID. I don't like going too far. So, yeah.
Okay.
That's about it.
Thank you. Councillor Brook.
Thank you, Warden. I as well attended the council orientation, and I agree with Deputy Warden that that was a very good orientation. Things that we don't remember, that we forget, and it was a good refresher. And I, as well, attended Remembrance Day celebration, which was a little different this year, but it was still very good. I attended the recreation department, and I have to give where the Jeanette and Nat, they do come up with some nice ideas for the seniors. Roppy Pie the other day, I heard a lot of good things about that. They said that somebody had said that they probably reach more seniors this way. They thought this was a really good idea. So I have to pass that on to Jeanette. And I did attend the AGM for the Arma Area Industrial Commission, along with the new meet with the new council as well, councillors for the Arma Area Industrial. I attended Nikhil. Nikhil is doing very well right now, considering COVID and all that. They're hanging on there, so they're getting funding for different things that they need. I attended also the 2 Christmas tree lightings, one on the 26th of November and one on the 5th of December. And that's what I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sonia. Unmute. Unmute, Ted. Ted. Ted, you're muted,
Looks
Ted.
like he froze.
We don't.
Looks like his video is froze.
Sorry. So I'll start all over. Yeah, I went to the Christmas tree lighting with Gordon. I also helped them a bit to set it up. We had a few giggles over that. And after that, I also met with the veterans and went to the church. Gordon and I both, we ended up putting a wreath on behalf of the municipality. We ended up at the Legion for a small buffet. And I was totally surprised when asked to go say a few words. I wasn't quite prepared for that, but here I am, still alive. I also met with Colton, who just kind of got acquainted a bit. I knew him from the past, so it was good to talk to him. We had about an hour and a half meeting. Donnie Nelson, I had to refresh his ask for the grant. We'll go over that in a bit. Orientation, I will commend our own staff on board for the orientation they gave us live, which I thought I learned more there than I did on Zoom. Zoom was a little bit over the top and kind of information overload, I think, for both Gordon and I, but it was still good. There was a lot of good points. Too much to remember, but. And last, Roppy Pie, I have a concern is that a lot of my people here asked me why they didn't know. So I asked Lori that same question and said, is there a better way to let the people know when a municipality is doing something for our seniors or anybody like that? So to make sure, because some of them don't even have a computer, it'd be nice to be able to let all these people know what's going on. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. My report is included. It has been very, very busy. I've had a busy month since the last meeting for sure. On your comment about the rock pies, a lot of people not knowing, I know there was a lot of seniors that didn't know, and since we're targeting seniors, we have to realize that a lot of seniors don't have a way to get the information on Facebook. Usually what happens there though, once someone knows, the word gets around, and that's usually our best way. But for some reason this time, and I think it's because people are just not going out as much, right? Because of COVID. So a lot of these seniors maybe didn't see as many people that would have told them, because I've had comments from seniors that are very local and never missed one of these, and they had no idea that it was taking place. So anyway, another thing that I didn't include in my, I'll be with you, Deputy Warden. I attended, we had a Christmas tree lighting that I didn't put on my report here in Abrams River on the 29th. And no, it was Hubbard's Point on the 29th. And then I came to Abrams River and we had that on the following Sunday. So I think it was very, very appreciated that they could do this. I mean, both organizations that approached me were very, very happy that they could do this for sure. And I've heard good comments about it. So anyway, that's my report. And Councillor Aubrey, go ahead.
I just want to quickly say about the seniors Rapi Pie. The target for this one was 65 plus, and Gina did contact the presidents of the seniors clubs to let them know so that they could kind of pass on the word. But it is hard. You're right. A lot of seniors don't have Facebook, and social media is an easy way to kind of get out to people. But attempts were made, I guess, to contact as many seniors as possible.
Exactly. They had 120. They had served 120. Which was very, very good. Yeah. Okay. Now we go to the staff report. There's an attachment, and I will turn that to our CAO to go over it.
Thank you, Warden. I will try to be brief on this, as this is the first staff report for 2 of the councillors here. I'll just start by saying we do this every month. And we just do it once a month, and there is a lot of detail in some instances. So we're always open to hearing from you around whether there's more, less, or just right in terms of information. What I typically do on my side is try to put the council identified priorities at the top of the report so that they see those top of mind. And some of the topics that I'll just briefly go over would be the admin building. Obviously, it's advancing mostly on schedule. We had some paint adjustments to make, and so I see that's coming quite nicely. And so the exterior work is looking very good. And a lot of that work is coming along. They are working interior as well. Anyway, I would say that they're on schedule. Our change orders, we've had change orders throughout. Obviously we have contingency for that. We're still within our budget. But for the newer councillors, the biggest change order that we needed to decide on, which was one that I brought to council, in fact, was whether or not we should go with a metal roof or because the original design had a shingled roof, and that was a pretty easy decision to spend the extra money knowing that the useful life will be quite a bit more than the shingle option. So a lot of the other change orders would be, things you don't anticipate, you miss on drawings, or you get to places and you didn't quite fully anticipate X or Y. And so as we get closer to the end, the risk of those things happening go down because there's less work to do. We do have bridge funding available to us through our credit union. We have not borrowed any of that yet. I'd like to not borrow any no offense to the bank, but I'd rather use our own money if we can. So, but at the end of the project, for those of you who know or don't know, we have an FCM loan, which will be paid out to us at the end of the project. So part of the reason why we went with the net zero, and I've said this before, but I think it's worth repeating, is that the additional cost of construction has been more than offset by the grant funding that we received from the federal government and through gas tax. So what we committed in terms of the cost to our residents has been, we said it would cost them in a range of 2.2 to 2. I think on the high end, perhaps 2.6, I think we said, if my memory serves me correctly. That was probably 3 years ago, and I suspect that will be closer to $2 million, and that's 3 years later. So it's due to it's due mostly to the net zero design and the fact that other people are paying for the building and not the reserves that we've put aside over time. So associated with that project is the affordable and alternative housing. We know that there is a project underway in West Pumlico. A local developer is moving forward on that and has been working with us on that to connect to wastewater permits, etc. So that is ongoing. But there is a plan to do that in Tuscott as well. The request for expression of interest will be coming out. It needs to be reviewed by a third party before I'm comfortable with releasing it. And we do have other interests in the land that was made available through the construction of our road at J.A. Hatfield Court. So the development of that road in Tuscott has generated some interest in even some business interests that we will obviously, when it's ready, will come to council for discussion. Rural internet, there's no significant update since the announcement of the project, though I did receive information recently on a potential add-on. I'm not in the position to get into too much detail on that right now, but it would result in about 99% coverage of fiber to the home for Argyle, which is a pretty significant number. Once we have that information pulled together, we will certainly bring that to council for your consideration. I guess what I'm saying is there's an opportunity to further invest in order to add additional homes to the original project. So that's the detail I can share now, and we're just getting more information. COVID, we did receive Safe Restart funding of $240,000. We are closed to the public now as a precaution. There's really only one person that's working from home right now because of the her association with a home for the elderly. So we wanted to protect those that live there, and of course her being a part owner of it is associated with that, and we wanted to protect her and her residents. There is an update on the fishing dispute that has occurred recently. Certainly, I'm not an expert in that area. I wanted to just make sure that council understood that since you've made the decision to approve an amount with PR for communications, Iris Communications is the firm of choice. We have been we've issued a press release, and we have been in contact with MP Bernadette Jordan, who met with our mayors and wardens of the 11 regions to hear what our questions and or concerns would be, most of which surround safety and security, the complexity of Indigenous rights and DFO and all those rules and regulations. That's a nation to nation negotiation. We're not involved in that, but we have asked to be informed on how that is going. So your warden, along with myself, are involved in those conversations as we go, and we will share as much as we can, as quickly as we can. Very quickly, Mariner Center expansion. Every time we meet, it costs more. So I think we should stop meeting. So I think that's the solution. This is it's a big project. It's a multi-year project. We're still in the planning stages. We've hired EXP, and we were recently, there was a recent announcement that there'll be funding to help us offset the costs of engaging consultants to help us along in terms of, looking at, well, what can it look like and what's the cost of that, right? So we have wants and needs, and at the end of the day, we have to decide how much of it that we're able to invest in. There's still a lot of discussion around what the 3 units, what does it look like for the 3 units? There's a lot of detail that needs to be ironed out still. So that will be, that will be a discussion that will continue. It will be something that we will clearly continue to bring to your attention. There's also associated with that work is the bridge to service. And what I mean by bridge to service is we don't have YMCA is closed. We don't have that service right now. In a COVID environment, that's not particularly unusual. If you look across Nova Scotia, there are a lot of these facilities that are closed due to COVID. However, certainly that was the reason why the YMCA decided to close their doors permanently. But it's also the reason why we're not in a position where we can reopen. So the town has taken ownership of that building, and Argyle in the previous council, and certainly I would presume in continuing, remains committed to maintaining or trying to bridge a service to the community until we can get a long-term project completed. I think the other areas I will there's a lot of projects going on right now from a capital perspective. I will just mention them at this point because they go on and on. Comfort Solar for Wetchport, Camoes Hill Wharf repairs that you've approved. We're awaiting the contractor to finish work there. There is the East Pubnico project, as well as the West Pubnico project. East Pubnico being major repairs to the water system for our customers there that use industrial water, and West Pubnico is for the dewatering equipment, which is expected to be installed and ready for operation in early 2021. I'm saying like March, April looks like the estimated time where it'll be fully operational. The other thing that I would just simply say is with this being the first staff report since the election, there's still some work that was done on the election, as well as and there's ongoing work being done with REMO and COVID that we should recognize that it is certainly something that is always taking some time and energy from multiple departments. And I will take a moment to thank two people in particular today. One would be Natalie Surette-D'Entremont for her service as the Director of Recreation Services in the municipality. She's gone on to a regional role, which she was born for, essentially. She has done a lot of regional work for the municipality of Argyle that benefited Argyle, but it also benefited the region. So she's continuing in that area. I'll say that what we have in that position is a leave of absence, which means that I have provided Natalie 1 year leave. So if the waters are tested and they don't feel too good, there is an opportunity for Natalie to return but it's at her option. So I should just let you know that, because it may have implications when we go to market, or when we go to market to look for another person. The other person I'd like to publicly thank is Janine Muse. Janine Muse has basically tirelessly given of time and energy. We started REMO in January of 2020, and in February, COVID hit, and the drought started, and I would say we started talking about it in May, and it's gone until now, where the drought turned into flood for some areas. You know, it has become very clear that the REMO coordinator has given of her time and energy above and beyond what our expectations were for that position. And I think I really would like to publicly thank Janine and Max, who is the assistant REMO coordinator, and all of their team, which includes Kim Rowley on our staff, but also other staff in the town and municipality for the amount of change and adjustments that they needed to make in the past 9 months. I can't even get into it. So I would end with that. And obviously, if there's any questions, I usually don't take this much time, councillors, Sonia and Boudreau, but I have taken as much before. But I tried to be faster, but I think I slowed down purposely for you, this being your first one. Aren't we all lucky?
Any questions? Councillor Donaldson. You didn't have your hand up?
It was a thumbs up to Ellen. Sorry.
Oh,
I gotta
okay.
get her signal straight.
Councillor Surratt.
I've got three questions for our CAO. Do we have an idea for accessibility to the internet for Morris Island? I know that's the people that have been questioning me lately. So any idea of where they're going first, or do you know?
I don't have that information right now, Councillor. It's a common question. The answer lies with Bell, most likely. I think they have a commitment to deliver that information in early 2021. So I don't have that answer, Councillor, but as soon as we have that, we will make it very clear to all council and as many residents as possible.
If you may, Chair, I've got a couple more.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Go
Next one is on the Mariner Center. If I remember right, the 20 million mark seemed to be, the number to shoot for. It seems, according to your report, that 20 million will not suffice. That's what I read. Maybe I read it wrong. If that's the case, that will affect on what we can get from the feds and the provincial government, as way before there was a huge, it was too big. They kind of told us, go back to the drawing board. Could you comment on that?
I could. Thanks for the question. You didn't misunderstand, I don't think. What we've asked EXP to do is to try to fit a project into a, $14-15 million envelope. I say that because we had 20 million in our mind that would represent the total cost, right? So there's construction costs, and then there's all the other costs and contingencies, et cetera. So we were looking at 14, 15, and forgive me, I mean, these are order of magnitude numbers. I mean, we're not, we're not talking about hard numbers right now. We're really high level. So when we asked them to do that, the committee looked at what we got for that, and it really wasn't a lot. Like, it wasn't actually meeting all of the wants that, or even, it was barely even meeting the need. So I think the conclusion, the 20 million magical number comes from our best estimate for how much the other levels of government would tolerate in terms of funding. Now, at the end of the day, you can make the project as large as you want. And the federal and provincial governments may just cap their funding at a certain number, right? So I think what's critical moving forward is what exactly do we need, and then what do we want? And this is what we have to build at a minimum. And then the wants will depend on financial ability and our ability to generate third-party funds. Right now we're talking to elected officials federally and provincially. There is no program right now that I can land on and say we're going to apply for this. But we are generally aware that these projects are funded. And we also know that there are projects of this nature, if they're associated with some sort of, reducing carbon footprint, or district heating systems, or some other environmentally conscious project, it may attract additional money. So we're not there suggesting that. First, we have to establish what we think we can do, and then where do we get the money to make that happen. And as you've seen with the municipality of Argyle's municipal building, sometimes you plan A and you end up with B because the money drives you in a direction that makes you invest a little bit more money, because you can get more money from other levels of government that effectively will reduce your operating costs over time. So what we know about this project, this is a long answer, I know. What we know about this project, councillors, is that it's not just the capital cost, it's the operating. And what we know about aquatic centers is that they're expensive to run. They are between $200,000 and $300,000 deficit just for aquatic centers, and that can range depending on the size. So it is an inside pool is a very expensive investment, both capital and operating. So if you can construct it, that you spend a little bit more at the front end and then reduce the operating costs over time, i.e., efficient ways of heating or et cetera, then I think you're really, that's good planning, because operations is going to be on us. Capital could be shared. Right? So
very good. Alain, that's a great, I'm glad you filled it in. A lot of people have been asking, and yes, that's a huge help what you said there. It certainly explains it. Number three, if I may, Mr. Chair, is just to let Alain know that the report is A1. I wouldn't change it a bit. I love these reports. It really fills us in on some of the little things that I either forget or whatever. No, keep it like it is. Thank you.
okay, well, we appreciate the feedback. We want to let you know what we're doing. And we want to let you know that we're serving in every capacity that we can.
Right. Anybody else? Okay, Councillor Donaldson, that is a question, right? You're asking a question.
That wasn't a thumbs up. Just back to the internet, Ellen. This may be rumor. I don't think so, but they announced, I believe last week, they're ready to start hooking up in the Woods Harbor, Shag Harbor, Route 3 coming from Barrington West. And people are only finding out now after it's ready for hookup, whether they actually can hook up based on where they run the fiber optic and what side roads aren't accessible. To me, that's unacceptable because, well, for me as an example, I don't have no high-speed internet anywhere in my District 6. And people are asking a lot of questions, especially not so much when, it's like where, and like, so are we going to have to wait for the same scenarios what Barrington's going through to the last minute? Is there any way we can find out from the RIN if we're going to be in the same situation? If we are, at least we'd like to know that so we can answer the people, or we can say, look, we don't know until Bell gets done running their wires, and who and when will be able to hook up. But I mean, I don't want to see that. I like to see a plan ahead of time, but I don't know if Bell will do that. Where do we move? I mean, I can call Rain, Ted can call Rain. I mean, but that's not the way we should have to do it. There should be some kind of a document that comes out. I believe so.
I agree. So first,
you're allowed to call me now.
Thank you. So first of all, it's not a rumor, it's true. They are putting the lines in Barrington, and that was based on, they received funding, if you recall, on the first phase. So they're implementing the first phase. So we're on phase 2. Logically, you know, they're bringing the wire this way. That's a good sign, right? So your question is an excellent question. I think that I can't answer with certainty, but I will give you assurances that if we can get that information, if we could find out where those fibers are being set and which customers, like how far away, for instance, a customer might be able to connect based on the fiber being put in place, we could draw that up with our GIS tech, who is obviously also a scientist, that he could actually map out which civic numbers would be impacted by this. So I hope to get that information before the infrastructure gets rolled out. I will have to ask Evan Nemeth from the REN in order to get that information. I think it's an excellent commitment of communication to our residents. So hopefully get back to you on that.
Anybody else? Councillor Sonia.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, just to follow up on Guy's questions on the Mariner Center. I couldn't help but think about when they first constructed the Mariner Center, or the idea of construction was, I think, downsized a bit, and then later on it had to be expanded. And in the same manner, when they put lights into the Veterans Field, they were never done properly. They were done a little cheaper than they should have been. And now it would be another expensive to try to fix it, and it's never been fixed. So I caution ourselves as a council to make sure that we meet the goals, that not just what we want, but what the people expect to have. And so that it doesn't have to be readdressed 10 years down the road and another expense come along. That's all I want to say.
Thank you.
I can speak on the tone of that committee, Councillor Saunier, and I would suggest the tone of the committee mirrors what you just said, is that if we cannot do it well, we shouldn't do it. So if we can do two things to a point where it's done properly with the money that we have, then we do two. We don't do three and try to do that in a way where you have to revisit it very soon after. One thing that we've learned with these capital projects is construction costs escalate, between 2% and 4% a year based on whatever is going on. And, we are also in a fairly positive borrowing environment right now. So in many cases, it's financially sensible to invest now and not have to invest in 5-6 years, when the cost of construction has escalated far beyond the cost of borrowing to do that. So there's certainly your sentiment has been expressed at that table. I hope I spoke accurately.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, I agree with you. CL News, that was brought up. Let's not do something that we'll regret. Let's do what we can do now and do it right. Yeah. Okay, no more questions?
Councillor Bork.
Councillor Bork, yes?
Thank you, Chair. I know I'll ask you often this question. So East Pimlico water, when is that going to start? Because I know the productivity at the plant right now is low. So shouldn't they be starting to fix the water system? And what's the timeline? And also for the water tank itself.
Okay. Thank you for the question. So there's two phases to what we're doing in East Pimlico. So the phase that we're on now is the rehabilitation, reconstruction of the wells on the Willett Road, and all associated equipment attached to that. That project in its totality will be about $230,000, of which 50% will come from ACOA. So the work has already begun in this area. It's planned and essentially ready to go. The supplies are being ordered so as to expedite the installation. We've engaged a firm in particular to do that, and there's a technology that we will be, SCADA technology that we'll be putting in there will allow us to monitor the comings and goings both at the plant of the main user as well as the tank, which you referred to. The tank itself is not part of the project of the 230,000 that I described. As council might recall, we have had more than one look at this tank, and we had experts. So the engineers took a look and said, look, this is what we see, but you actually need to have a tank expert come in and take a look. So we did that. And the good news is that they see a significant useful life. excuse me, useful life in the existing tank. That tank was built to last, thankfully. So, however, it needs a rehabilitation. We are ballparking that at about 300,000. We have intentions of doing that. And of course, the timing of that will depend on demand and other factors, meaning we're not going to interfere with the use of the water if we can help it. I think that we can do the tank work without actually significantly impacting the general operation of the company that uses it, Camo. And so so we can potentially do some repairs at the same time. The things that we're doing now require us to do it now, so that when it comes to the new season, they'll be ready to go. I fully expect that this project will be completed in full by the 31st of March of 2021. I say that because the funding forces us to, for sure. And you know, we are obviously cognizant of the fact that we can do some things in the winter, but not all things. So it took us a while to get it planned. There's no question. And I know there's a lot of talk about painting that tank. That is part of the plan. However, you know, first things first. We're not gonna do the cosmetic changes to the tank if it compromises our ability to do the repairs to the tank. So probably repairs first. I realize that the things that you see are sometimes more important than the things that are unseen, at least to those that are passing by. So I can appreciate the unsightly nature of that tank, and we recognize that. So it is part of a second project that will occur. It's unlikely that we'll get funding for the second project, though I won't, you know, I won't say that for sure. We do have some surplus funds from the residents, from the users that came from a divestiture back at the time when we purchased it. So there is some funding earmarked for this, and we'll have to determine where the other part will come from.
Okay. Any more? Seeing none, thank you very much for the report. We'll move on for decision. First one is ground search and rescue. We had brought that up at our last meeting. We decided to bring it up again this meeting for decision. And as we all know, they would like to have 10,000. And from what I understood from the last meeting, there was some money left that we could in the grants budget that we could use. It's not quite the 10,000, but I'm wondering if we're going to do this, if we could come up with it with the remainder. I don't know how much is in the budget left, but I know they desperately need the money. They, you know, for sure. That building is getting more and more damaged because of the roof, and that's what they want to do first, is the roof. So anyway, I'll open that for discussion for anybody. Yes, Deputy Warden.
Thank you. A few things too. I guess CAO Muse, I have a couple of questions for you as well. So there is, I'm not quite sure how much money is left over, but that's for this time. But we kind of mentioned, or I kind of mentioned the last time about how they're in our grants for organizations program, and it just doesn't seem to be the right fit. I'm wondering how we go about kind of looking for a different avenue for them for funding. I'm also thinking about, to me, this is something that's regional when we talk about our regional priorities, but yet we haven't had a regional conversation about this with our partners. So I'm also wondering how we go about doing that. I think we probably should maybe tonight make a motion to have search and rescue come in and make a presentation for us, because we've had a lot of questions. I mean, the warden and I have provided some information, but we don't know everything that there is, you know, it would be best coming from them. So I guess I'm kind of looking for some direction as to what we do in terms of of how do we think about the funding differently for them, and how do we start this regional conversation?
Yes, go ahead.
I wasn't. All right, I can
was going
start
like
from
this,
an.
but I keep forgetting we're not. I'm not sitting next to you. It looks like I am.
Like, I wasn't sure. I was like, was that for me? Was that for me? Okay. So, yeah, so I think that we know so the first part of the question is they're in this grants to organizations, they compete, and council doesn't really see it as, they see it more as a protective service, as an essential service, rather than a competing with community halls, et cetera. I mean, that's as quickly, that can be done as quickly as a motion that would instruct staff to allocate funding towards GSAR outside of the grants to organizations process. That would drive me to change the policy with a very quick change that would say that this policy doesn't apply to GSAR. If you read the policy on grants to orgs, you'll see that it doesn't apply to fire departments, doesn't apply because it's a completely different. So if council, number one, if council want to do that, that's as simple as a motion. And that motion would drive us to change the policy for next year's application. As it relates to this year, I think you had approximately $8,000 remaining, and I think that's a conservative number. I think it was closer to like 82. So the difference between that number and 10,000 can easily be found in the current year budget if that is the will of council. So that is a motion. Again, that would be a motion that would be required. The concern I have with that motion, however, is that 10,000 does nothing to them unless you have partnership. And so you have this amount that you've committed, but won't actually finish the work that they might intend to do. So if you wanted to be a leader on this file, one of the potential ways that you could do that is to make a fiscal commitment and say and invite the others, right? So you could make a commitment, but that there be a certain condition attached to it, and like an invitation to the town and municipality to engage. And you don't have to make a fiscal commitment to engage them. However, the fiscal commitment sends a very strong message. So what message you want to send is entirely up to you as council, but I would suggest that it is a regional issue. And the other concern I have looking at it as your advisor is how much money do we want to spend on this building, and what other options, if any, are they contemplating as a group? We've never been in the position to force people to change locations. We've often believed that what they're thinking is in terms of their location should be where we start. But they could be having the same kind of thinking that we had at our last meeting. I would strongly encourage a presentation. We have already reached out to them. They were busy today because they were actually giving a tour of the building to Modi tonight. So I do intend on having a special meeting of council before Christmas, and we could absolutely add them to that council presentation.
That sounds good, and at least we could hear from them as well, and see exactly what they're willing to do or what they're not willing to do. I mean, they may not want to move, but you don't know. If they knew there was a better place for them,
That's right.
They might
Right.
just jump at it for sure.
Because that wasn't part of the conversations that we had. We never ever
Not
talked
at
about
all. No,
alternate locations. We just talked about that location.
exactly. Councillor Boudreau, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I was just wondering, that building, when are they planning to fix it up? Like they can't fix it up in the wintertime, or they plan to fix it in the spring?
I don't know that they said it's a priority that has to be done as soon as they can, but you're right. I mean, it gets to a point where doing, shingling a roof there's times when it's good to do it and times that it's not. So I'm not
Right, yeah.
sure what they're.
Yeah.
And I think part of that depends on funding. They just don't have the money.
Don't have
Like
the
their
funds.
first
They can't do it.
priority right now is the roof, and they just don't have the money to do it.
All I was thinking is, if they're only gonna do it in the spring, then we can get a chance to get together and see
Yeah.
what they want, what their plan is.
Yeah.
Yes,
You know
you're
what I
right.
mean? If they want to move to a new building or wherever, right? Or if they want to stay.
You're right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Councillors. Okay, I've got Councillor Surratt, and then I'll have Councillor Sonia. Councillor Surratt first.
Yes, I like Gordon, I think it's to start to try to fix the roof in the wintertime. I don't think it's the right time, and I think, it'll give us a chance. As Councillor Boudreau said, that we can maybe meet with the other units and find out if somebody else, if they're interested. I think there should be a tri-unit either meeting or a get together, so we could discuss, like Councillor Sonia said at the last meeting, maybe what about the airport? What about, I thought that was a good suggestion. So we've got many avenues and that we could speak to them about. And I encourage that we bring them to the table and speak to the GSR and try to find out if they're staying there, if they're game to shift to go somewhere else. Yeah, that's my point. Thank you.
Councillor Sonia.
Let me clarify about, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm the one that brought up the building as far as, did they want to move? So the only thing from driving by, saw the building was huge, but I haven't been in, and Danny and Nicole have been. Do they need such a big facility? So I was kind of putting words in you guys' mouth. It was my idea, not anybody else's. I was just questioning the size of the building.
If I may, I don't think they need all that space. But there's a whole upstairs that I don't think I don't believe they use very much. They use it downstairs. They do a lot of their training, and they have offices that they use. Like they showed us one office might have been for the dispatcher, one, you know what I mean? So they need space, they need space for storage. But as far as that building itself, to me, is way more space than they need to operate. And
I assume so much. Yeah.
It's big, it's huge.
Yeah. So I just assumed that the building was bigger than what they needed. And I agree with Councillor Gordon that if this is only going to be done in the spring, the repairs, well, there's a lot of time to hash this out.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes, there was a comment made the last time about the Yarmouth town not putting their 5 cents worth in there. And I talked to a veteran ground search and rescue guy. He chuckled. He said, "We might have done more ground searches in Yarmouth than any place else." He said there's people from the mental unit that have ran out and they have to go looking for them. They've even done bomb searches, for God's sakes. And so they've been quite busy in the town of Yarmouth, and as much as any place else. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I may as well, I said it was too big. That's just my view. Maybe they don't think it's too big. That's something that they would have to come up and say for sure. Oh,
But if they need,
we've just been joined by another councillor. Councillor Dignan is coming on. Yeah.
Just to add to that comment, Mr. Warden, if we feel it's too big and it is too big and it needs such repair, then the prudent thing to do would be to downsize the building or go to something a little more convenient.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. Councillor or Deputy Warden, go ahead.
Thank you. So I'm thinking probably the next logical step would be to have them come in and meet with us and talk about our concerns, ask our questions. And I feel like we're all in consensus that we do want to help them. We'd like it to be regional. and we feel like we want to support them financially, but there's still a lot of unanswered questions before we kind of put a dollar to that. That's kind of what I feel. So CAO Muse, should we make a motion to invite them, or is that just a natural thing that's going to happen?
You can make that motion to put it on record. It certainly will occur whether or not you put it on record.
Okay.
But I think a motion is appropriate.
I'll make a motion to have Ground Search and Rescue come meet with our council to discuss their needs and how we move forward to best support them. Is that okay?
There's a seconder. Seconded by Councillor Sonia. Any more discussion on that?
Just on the motion, it's a great motion, and so we're going to do our next meeting by Zoom, which means that we could in fact invite our partners at the town and municipality to let them know that on 6:30 on such and such a date that this presentation will occur. That way we're not tripling GSAR's presentation necessarily. That might, make it more efficient. These guys, my understanding is that they are busy doing a lot of things for our community. So that, and then of course, they may, perhaps it would be a way for them to even flip some questions to us on Facebook Live. They could flip questions to us as counselors or as staff. It's not 100%, but in COVID, you know what, that might be helpful to support GSAR.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. If there's no questions or comments, I'll ask for the question. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Contrary minded, carried. So at this point, that's the motion for this. We're waiting for until we can have a presentation from them before we make any kind of decisions. Sounds good. Next one is reimbursement for attending meetings and conferences. There's an attachment, and let me see, I think, yeah, we've dealt with this, and I just see one highlighted area. That's the only change. Now, from this one here, and I think we took that out. We took the FCM out. We decided to incorporate that with another another item in here.
Yeah.
So right now what we have is just the only one that I see is any council or staff who books flights or hotel themselves might be limited in their reimbursement, because we have, and that's something we discussed as well, and I think that's why it's in there. Okay, so
Correct.
do we have, yeah. Did someone want to say something? No. Yeah, go ahead. No?
That is correct. The two changes are what you see highlighted, and then we deleted the FCMP. So all travel related, it gets handled the same way.
Okay.
So move.
You
So
move.
move.
Move to, and that seconded, Councillor Bork. Okay, it's moved and seconded to accept this as presented. And are there any questions or comments? If I don't see any, I'll ask for the question. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Contrary minded? Carried. The next one is Code of Conduct revised. That one has quite a few highlighted areas, and I think these are all things that we had discussed as well during the first one. So if you've all had a chance to look at this, what I'll ask is, does anybody have any comments or questions or anything regarding this? Councillor Surratt.
As usual, I'd like to mention that on C, which is 5.3C, that certainly has answered what I had. I'm glad that was put in there. A1, so I'm all set with that. One question I would have with the CAO is, are you comfortable with, I still find it might be pushing you to the limit to CAO Muse, that anybody that does call you and you have to call the warden first. I find that's a bit jamming you up. If you don't feel that's bad, but I was thinking of you on that part. It might be jamming you up quite a bit, but it's up to you. I just want to mention it.
I don't have very many press requests. I don't have any issue with sharing with the warden prior to making any sort of comment. Oftentimes, if there's a meeting such as this, I mean, I say pre-COVID, right? The media will come and they will look for the warden and myself. I never ask the warden, is it okay? Because we're both actually engaging with the media. So I don't have any issue with that. I mean, and I don't answer any political questions. It's all administrative.
Right.
So the yellow that you see here, just for your information, was the original amendments, and the blue is what we added since the last discussion that we had. So if you make other changes, just let me know how many times you want me to change it, because I'm going to run out of colors.
Any other questions or comments? If not, we need a motion to approve, and that's a motion, Councillor Donaldson? No, that's a question.
No, it's a motion.
It's a motion, okay. Seconder? Councillor Bork. So if there was no other questions, I assume there's none now, so I will ask for the question. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Contrary minded. Carried. Eelbrook Fire Station. There's an attachment there, and we met with the Eelbrook Fire Department. And as it's indicated in there, they plan on doing a drilled well anyway, but we're always talking about we need some areas where public can go and get some water, fill some big tanks, or so that they don't have to go to Yarmouth or Pubnico or wherever. So for each different areas. So what was discussed there was that just the well itself may not supply what you need, but they're saying that they can have you can have a storage tank that fills. It might take a while to fill, but there's a lot of water in that tank that you could fill quite a few smaller tanks during a day. So, but that would be an extra cost, and that would have to come from us, the municipality or Remo or whoever would have to pay for this, because you can't expect them. Another thing they said they could do, if they could open their building for showers and whatever as well. So I guess it's something that we have to discuss here. And if there's any discussion on this, you've seen the attachment. We don't have a whole lot. We need more information before we can make a decision anyway. But I guess what we're looking for is to give just give the CAO to obtain costs and whatever it would cost to get something like that organized. Any discussion? Yep, Deputy Warden.
Well, I'm going to make the motion, and then can I make the motion, then we discuss
Yes, you
it?
can. You certainly.
I'm going to move that the Eelbrook Fire Department location be added as a potential location for community access of non-drinkable water, and that the CAO obtain estimated cost to install infrastructure necessary for that location for council's decision.
Seconder for that. Councillor Donaldson. Any questions, any discussion on the motion? Councillor Donaldson.
Yeah, I attended that meeting also. I didn't mention it in our councilor's report, but so much of this is going to depend on when you're talking tanks and pumps. So much of this is going to depend on what they get for water, right? If they drill a well and get 30, 40, 50 gallons a minute, a lot of this isn't even an issue. But if you get 3 gallons a minute, you may be looking at installing a tank, and that's where it will come in. That municipality will have to help. So until like we're agreeing to possibly put something there, but with this motion. But until the well's drilled, we don't have no idea what we're in for. So I mean, this is step one of probably many steps. Based on the meeting I attended, anyhow, the way what I took away from it.
Yes, exactly. Because you don't know. I mean, you can drill a well and it could supply all the water you'd ever want to take out of there. But you never know that until it's actually in the ground and knowing. Any other comments? Councillor Surratt.
Yeah, so on drilling wells, I can attest to something we have at the Ultramar. There was about 30 gallons per minute at that location, which is just unbelievable. They dug across the road where Lickety Split is now, and they're getting hardly half a gallon a minute.
Yeah.
And that's just maybe, 500 feet, 1,000 feet. So you just, like Councillor Dawson said, you just don't know. With that comment, I have a concern, and my only concern is this, we've had multiple droughts in the last years, and I just hope this will not drag into a 5-year thing where we're checking and we got to drill a well. And my concern is if the fire station comfort center is still 5 years down the road or whatever, because this has been going on for a long time. The issue with drought, it doesn't pick 5 years from now. It could be next year. So that's a concern I have.
I think with the discussions that we had at that time was that probably that type of installment of the well and whatever could be done prior to, before the building is done. Am I correct in saying that? I'm pretty sure that's what was brought up.
Yes, yeah, I mean, when they drill the well will be step one, and I can appreciate Councillor Surratt's comment on how long is it actually going to take to construct this building. I know their intentions are to construct it next year, but the intentions and actions and what is actually executed are not always in our control. So, they could have price issues, etc. So I hear your point. I think what we see here from a staff perspective is an opportunity, right? Like we have an opportunity to attach ourselves to a drilled well without actually drilling our own. And that's the real opportunity for us. We know there's going to be something constructed there. And I think that, from our perspective as administrators, this won't be the last one that we look at. We certainly have other communities that we have to look at as well. Wedgeport was identified. Council asked us to look at Tuscott and Camoes Hill. We've indicated Camoes Hill is not going to happen because there's too many issues. But we are actively investigating an actual drilled well in Tuscott as well. So your point's well taken. We just want to make sure that we're on the same page, that you see this as well as an opportunity for us to potentially partner.
By the way, Mr. Chair, I'll answer by just comment. It's a great location. Great location.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Boudreau, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, I'm no well expert. How many gallons per minute would it take to fill, say, during a drought, 200 tanks of water? Does anybody know the answer to that?
I don't.
It sounds like a math question I should know the answer to.
Put a dollar sign on it and he'll answer.
I can only say that Guy may have a better answer than I. I'm going to probably avoid the question if it's okay with you.
Yeah.
I guess the point I'm going to make is that regardless of whether we get 30 or 3, a reservoir tank makes sense because you don't know, like you could have a lineup of cars and that are just going to take you down and suck out the water at a very high rate. So a holding tank might be a good answer whether you got 3 or 3. And there was some conversation about, well, how big can the tank be or should the tank be? And is there a possibility that if the tank is large enough, that the fire department could use it as a potential filling of their own truck? Now that's a whole other ideal, and that's a whole other thing that we're not prepared to comment on right now, but it would obviously be a lot more expensive in that case.
Yeah.
So
I was just curious.
yeah, I'm not. Councillor Sudet he probably has a better answer than I do.
Yeah.
No, the only thing I was going to say, and it's probably not a good answer, was in town you can fill up one of those 1,000-liter tanks in 3 minutes. Less
That's
than
right.
3 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's all I had to comment.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's right. But it doesn't come from a drilled well. Councillor Sonia.
My concern is if we're drilling wells in every community, you're just, the only thing you're doing is shortening the distance for people fetching water, correct?
And yes, and increasing the options.
So,
Yes.
like for instance, at my house, which I know every house is different, my well went down to 2.5 feet, and we rationed our water, but never went dry. My neighbor, who lives below the hill, I guess you would say from me, never come close to running dry. Is there an option for grants to dig wells for the homeowner rather than drill public wells, is what I am saying? Because it would be a hell of a better fix. Even if the water's undrinkable, you can at least use it for toilets and washing and stuff.
Okay.
We couldn't agree more. The best solution is the solution at the home. We do have our well lending program, but as we all know, if you're going to have trouble making additional payments if you're on fixed income, well lending is a great service, but you may not be able to access it. We are actively discussing that very question with the province of Nova Scotia as we speak. One of the recommendations that we have is you saw the best solution for water is at your house. So if we would like to push community services to investigate the potential of subsidizing some of those programs. We know that there is funding from community services for those that apply. It is a very long process. And in fact, oftentimes it's one of many things that people need at that home. So the well might be on a list of 5 things that they're looking to fix. So your point is well taken. What administration is committed to doing is to produce a report. We have multiple studies going on right now, free of charge. Management Without Borders, Dalhousie University, NSCC, Province of Nova Scotia, hydrogeologists that are looking at the situation, and they're going to come to us and give us information. And at the end of the day, we're going to have a report that says, this is how you deal in rural Nova Scotia. These are the things that you can do in order to combat drought-related situations. So I don't know that the intention is to build in every community, but I think there is an intention to look strategically at what's the highest probability of getting high quality, non-drinkable water that for public people to come in. Pubnico has got a solution, and we seek to make that, try to replicate that as best as possible. But that is not the full solution. So yeah, so hopefully that answers your question.
You okay with that? Any more questions? I see. Were you all done, Councillor Sonia?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Deputy Warden?
When we met with the Eelbrook Fire Department, they had talked about to the point of location, as Councillor Surratt said. When you think about where the wells are located, there's one in Pubnico, right? And people in this area, in the Bellevilles, in the Quinnans, in the Tuskets, at this point really have to go quite a distance to get water. So it is central for us, for those who don't have that public well access right now. But speaking with Janine Muse, our REMO coordinator, she echoes exactly what you're saying, Councillor Sonia, that the best solution would be to help as many people get their wells, have good wells. And so far we've been able to, help as many people as possible with the well lending program. But it becomes that whole situation of how much money do we have and how much, so for those that we can't necessarily help drill a new well, this would be an alternate solution. And the municipality has bought some of those cubes. I don't know what else to call them, those tanks. So that we can also help residents if they need to have water as well. So if we can't get as many people as we'd like to have drilled wells, proper drilled wells, providing some other options within our municipality is kind of our next best solution, I guess, is the best way to look at it. And it's prime opportunity. They're in the process. Hopefully, keep everything crossed that building will come sooner rather than later. And it is a great location. So hopefully we can do something to help them out. But right now we're just investigating.
Okay, any more questions or comments? If not, we have a motion on the floor. So I'll ask for the question. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Contrary-minded? Carried. Next items are correspondence, and for information, I'll just go through them, and if there's any questions on any of them, just say so.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
9E would be the.
Yeah, that's right. Not there. And that's a letter, and that's a letter that we have that was in camera, which we've moved into the regular meeting at this point. So I'm wondering, since we haven't had much of a chance to look at this, we just got it today, I think, yes. And I wonder if we could bring this at our next meeting so that we'd have an opportunity to look at it and read it and whatever. What do you think?
I meet with the, sorry, just for your information, I meet with the Village and Musée on this very issue, and they just recently selected their consultant. They're not going to jump into, they need an immediate response. And I would also suggest that this letter is asking for an amount that would be a maximum. In fact, the amount they require may be less. So in getting some of those details, knowing that we're probably going to meet before Christmas very quickly, I would agree with tabling.
Everybody okay with that? Okay. Correspondence, letter from East Hants to Minister Wilson. Submission of planning and heritage documents. The cap and key data from filing of the 2021 assessment roll. Help for those in need, and that's from the what's it called, Food Nova Scotia, something to that effect. Let me see, Feed Nova Scotia. I know it was close. And the YMCA, and that's letters from some of the residents that are concerned that there's no pool and that they're pushing to reopen. And I know there was another one that came as well from someone else. I think it might have been Eric's. What? There was two that came anyway. Anyway, any of those any questions on any of those? If not, financial request. We have two community grants. One is from the Plymouth Cemetery, and there's an attachment They're requesting $500 for general maintenance. The Argyle Municipal Council. Councillor Sonia, do you want to speak on that one? Is there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was brought up the last time and they didn't have the letter.
letters.
So I talked to Donnie ever since, and he's brought in a letter to the municipality. And the $500 for the fencing will be the last time they asked for that. It was I think a 2-year project, and the general maintenance of the cemetery was the one they usually get every year. So that's why there's two different ones. One's for the fencing and one's for the maintenance of the cemetery itself.
So the fencing committee is
different.
It's
yes.
different. And
Donnie's on both committees. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess we need motion. You can make motions to those if you want.
Whole motion.
And that's for the Plymouth Cemetery, the one that I've got first here, the Plymouth Cemetery. So it's been moved. There's a seconder. Seconded by Councillor Surratt. All in favor? Signify by raising your hand. Contrary minded. Carried. The next one is the fencing committee, $500. We need a motion for that.
Whole motion.
Okay, moved, seconded by Councillor Boudreau. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Contrary minded, carried. So that brings us to agenda topics for next meeting or notice of motion. Anybody has anything they want to for the next meeting? Councillor Digdon?
Not so much for the next meeting. Well, not at all for the next meeting. First of all, I'm sorry I was late for this meeting this evening, but as you may be able to tell by my rosy red cheeks, I was down on the wharf in Lower West Pubnico, so kind of cool down there this evening.
You look like a lobster.
Pardon me?
You look like a lobster.
Yes, yes, exactly. Hopefully we're going to see lots of those lobsters this year again for everyone around. And if I may have your permission, I'd just like to give a short councillor's report, maybe from a short councillor.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. First of all, the buoy tree that was lit down here at the wharf in Lower West Pubnico, or that was put together, I should say, by the ladies. The night that that it was lit up, Jeanette, my wife, done a live video, and so far that's reached just about 8,000 people all around Canada and into the States and as far as Australia. And so that was a great hit. We had a nice Christmas tree put up in front of the presbytere here in Middle West Pubnico. A lot of people are coming to see it. And I also had the honor on the 3rd, I believe it was, or right around there. No, sorry. It would have been pretty well the last day of November or so, or around there, to lead a parade down here, a drive-by birthday parade for a lady that was turning 105 years old. Her name is Elda Dion. She was at the window watching and waving for her parade as it went by. And we also have another lady in the community today, Alice Surratt, turning 102 years old. And she had enjoyed a nice party in that this afternoon at the residence where she stays. So we've have some longevity here in the Pubnico area. So just want to say happy birthday to those people. And besides that, everything's going well, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So if there's no agenda topics, notice of motion. Question period. Have we had any questions online?
there. Just comments, commentary on rain, the fact that we had less rain by the end of September this year than we had the same time during 2016, which was the first of the 100-year droughts we experienced. That's certainly been, we would certainly agree with that. And there was also suggestion on harvesting rainwater as part of the Eelbrook Fire Department well option, well appreciated by another volunteer who watches us and often comments very positively to help us along. So that, those kinds of water collection options will be part of our, hopefully part of our final report when we move forward on the drought recommendations.
That's it. So we have an in-camera topic. So I guess what we need is a motion to go in camera. Moved by Councillor Surratt, seconded by Councillor Digdon. All in favor, raise your hand.